Do you know that the average reaction time of a human being is around 250 milliseconds? Yes, that's how much time the viewer has to understand our photo. So, knowing just the basic camera settings like aperture, ISO, and shutter speed is simply not enough. We also need to make our photos really interesting and visually attractive. And the best way possible to do that is composition. Composition guides the user's eyes towards the subject in an interesting way. And this whole process creates a nice storytelling in your photo. And everybody loves a good story. Now, don't worry, learning composition is free. You really don't need to buy any special gear or equipment. Composition is basically guided by a set of rules that you can follow while taking a photo. Now, you will be amazed to see how simple these rules are. But when you follow them, you can really upgrade your visual storytelling in the photo, and you can see the difference in the photos that you take after you learn composition. So, let's get started. Let's start with the simplest one, leading lines. In leading lines, we create a path to draw the viewer's eyes towards the subject, and we use the elements in the surroundings to do that. You can also look at it this way. Imagine you are walking down the road with someone and you find something interesting. What do? You simply point to it. You basically tell your friend to look at something that you found interesting. That's what we are doing with leading lines. We are literally pointing to the subject and telling the viewer to look at it. But because we don't have our hands in the photo, so we use the elements and the surroundings to create a path to look to it. Like we are just pointing towards the subject. Now it doesn't matter if leading lines are straight lines or curved lines. This rule of leading lines is very simple yet very interesting, and I've seen this being used across different types of photography. Now this rule of leading lines is so powerful that even our camera uses it to guide us towards a potential subject. And this brings us to the second rule of composition, or the rule of thirds. Now to understand rule of thirds, we need to turn on the grids in the camera. This grid is made up of two vertical and two horizontal lines, all spaced evenly from each other. But if you look at this grid carefully, your eyes are automatically drawn to the points where these lines meet. This is interesting because the rule of thirds says that if you place your subject on any of these lines, especially where these lines meet, you will be able to create a much more aesthetically pleasing and visually attractive photo. This composition also creates a much more balanced shot and provides a lot of context to the viewer. Now you can use the rule of thirds composition in literally any type of photography, but one of the most interesting uses is when you are shooting a photo like this. If you place the horizon on any of the horizontal lines, you can create a much more balanced and interesting landscape shot. Now the concepts of leading lines and rule of thirds assume that you already set a context in your photo, that you already have a visual storytelling in your photo, and all you need to do now is to guide the viewer's eyes towards the subject. But what if you want to create the context itself? What if you want to create the story itself? That is where foreground comes in. Now every photo is made up of different layers like midground and background, and we generally place the subject in the midground and use the background to complement it. Now, this might not always work, and honestly, it can also become very boring if we use it too much. So, the rule of foreground suggests that we add an object or something in the foreground just before the mid layer that can complement the subject and create visual interest. Now, this is very interesting because once you add foreground to your photos, you will see that a story starts being created. The object in the foreground now says something about the subject or main character and tries to lead the viewer's eyes towards it. This creates a much more balanced and interesting shot. Now, when I was understanding composition, I was amazed to see how our brains work. You see, adding a foreground is not the only way to create context and storytelling in your shot. You can also do this with framing. The rule of framing simply suggests that you use the objects in your surroundings to create a visual frame, and then you simply place your subject in that frame. This basically works because it helps to focus attention of the viewer towards the subject and also adds depth to your shot. Your shot will now look much more balanced and it will create a context and some kind of storytelling. The best part about framing is that you can do it with any physical object in your surrounding which has an opening or a hole, like doors, windows, arches, trees, or even fences with an opening. You can also get much more creative and bring together different objects in your surroundings to create a frame. You can simply go nuts with it. Now, getting familiar with all of these rules of composition is a great idea, really. But sometimes we simply don't have enough time to think about them while taking a photo. For example, in street photography. In those situations, you can simply center your subject and use the rule of symmetry. The rule of symmetry simply states that you place the subject in the center of the photo in a way that both sides of the photo are equal. Symmetry is a natural thing and it's all around us. For example, the wings of a butterfly, the water reflection that gives you a perfect mirror image, or the road in the middle with trees on both sides that gives you the perfect balanced look. Our brains love order and symmetry gives loads of it. Symmetry makes a photo look clean, balanced, and pleasing to the eye. So that's it. These are the 5 composition techniques that you can use in your photos to make them much more interesting and compelling for the viewer. These composition techniques can help you create a context and story for your viewer to understand and enjoy. If you found this video helpful, I would really appreciate if you can give a like and subscribe to the channel. And if you found this content interesting, you will definitely enjoy these videos. Be sure to check them out. So, it was really fun to make this video. I will see you in the next one. Bye.